Stepping Up to the Plate on BCTV is presented by Smoker & Company and One Source Business Solutions. Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Klauser, President of the Big Vision Foundation, and welcome back to our January edition of Stepping Up to the Plate on BCTV. Exciting time right now as we just passed our third anniversary of our rebrand from Berkshire Baseball to the Big Vision Foundation. So yesterday on January 24th was our official 3-year anniversary of becoming Big Vision Foundation. Obviously Berkshire Baseball, we're entering our 28th year of existence, but back on January 24th of 2014, the organization saw a bigger vision, so to speak, and we rebranded from Berkshire Baseball to the Big Vision Foundation. Obviously Berkshire Baseball is still a brand underneath the Big Vision Foundation umbrella, but we wanted to use this time, seems how the show aired so close to our anniversary, to just recap a little bit. I mean, it's been 3 years since we've rebranded, but yet there's still a lot of people in the community who don't really understand what Big Vision Foundation does and the impact that we have on the community. So I wanted to share with you a interview that I did back, somewhere probably in May of 2015 that I did with Al Weber of Tweed Weber, who really helped us through our strategic plan and the rebrand to Big Vision Foundation. Al's a personal friend and supporter of the organization, a mentor of mine over the past several years in helping us go through our rebrand. As he and I talk about what took place and what we did through the rebrand, I think it'll give our viewers a much better idea of what Berkshire Baseball and now Big Vision Foundation does within the community here in Berks County. Several people don't understand that we're generating between $3 and $5 million of economic impact through the tournaments that we run, and that's all tourism spending, teams coming in from the Mid-Atlantic region, Canada, Virginia, New Jersey, New York, New England. All those teams are coming here, spending their money. The impact that we have on our youth is really immeasurable. Those are kids who go on to be, professional businessmen, businesswomen, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs in our community. And then, we invest over $30,000 a year in putting inner city youth on fields, as well as over $15,000 a year that we provide to local Schuylkill Valley baseball, softball, and soccer programming and free use of the facility. So a lot of that stuff goes unnoticed a lot of times, but on the 3-year anniversary here at Big Vision Foundation, we thought it was something we wanted to feature. So sit back and enjoy. You'll be able to watch a little bit of a video clip as you hear Al and I talk, and then toward the end of the show, we'll show some clips of our original rebrand, which again took place back on January 24th of 2014. So sit back, enjoy the show, and as always, be sure to check us out at bigvisionfoundation.org. Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Klauser, President of the Big Vision Foundation. Welcome back to our Stepping Up to the Plate podcast series. Today I'm joined by Al Weber, President of Tweed Weber. Al, thanks for joining me today.
Great to be here, Dan.
Al, first of all, tell me a little bit about Tweed Weber and what Tweed Weber does.
Our company, based right in the middle of downtown Reading on Penn Square, does two things. We do strategic planning and we do research. We started out as a planning company that did a little research. We have morphed into a research company that continues to do planning.
And that's kind of how we got to know each other.
We did.
Through strategic planning. I was still on the Visitors Bureau board, and I think it's going back about 6 years ago now when we first met, and I went through my first strategic plan with the Bureau, and you conducted that and have done them ever since. And then a little over a year ago, I'd approached you to help our organization out, which at the time was Berkshire Baseball. And, I told you about a lease we had signed out there at the Berks County Youth Recreation Facility. We, we're looking at doing a $7 million renovation project out there. And, I said, we're a real small organization right now, and we know that we're going to have to beef up to do this. And we don't really have a plan. Can you help us out? And that's kind of how we got started on our strategic plan. And you walked us through that. The strategic plan turned into a rebrand as well. But, if you can kind of talk a little bit about, you knew a little bit about Berkshire Baseball through our relationship through the Bureau. But going through as you took us through the strategic plan, I mean, what was it? I mean, you're a huge supporter of our organization, which I thank you for. But I mean, what was it that kind of drew you into what we do as an organization?
Well, at the time, Berkshire Baseball was a bright light hidden under a bushel basket. It made an enormous impact on the county from both an economic development standpoint, from a youth development standpoint, from a community involvement standpoint. But very people knew what it was. When you ran into people on the streets and mentioned Berkshire Baseball, they looked at you somewhat confused and said, I think I've heard about that. Who are they? The result was that the organization was not getting, quite frankly, the respect that it deserved for the work that it did. And through our planning process, we were able to assess the state of the organization, determine where it needed to go going forward, and then determine the steps it had to take for getting there. As a result, the rebrand, as you put it, took place. You morphed from being Berkshire Baseball to Big Vision Foundation with a Berkshire Baseball component of
Correct.
the Big Vision Foundation. You took a giant gamble, which I believe is paying off, to sink a lot of money into those fields and create a destination for young people and youth teams to come to Berks County to play ball. You hired a team of super people who work with you now in order to continue to bring your organization forward. You launched a very active and, I believe to this point, succeeding sales and marketing campaign to bring more people from a broader geographic range to these wonderful fields that you have created. You had always made an impact, by the way, on the community. Now that impact is even greater. You in essence, created two organizations under one umbrella.
Correct.
Because Big Vision Foundation is the parent company of Berkshire Baseball. You still have a youth sports team, a set of teams that you are supporting and nurturing and growing to serve young people who are very interested in baseball in Berks County. In addition to that, though, Big Vision Foundation is now expanding to have a greater impact on the community in a lot of other ways. There's a strategy that you put in place about impacting the quality of youth sports coaching, which right now is an entirely unregulated industry.
Yes, it is.
And let's face it, you can't put a dead body in the ground without a license, but you can mold the character of young people without having had one lick of training on how to do it.
Very true.
And listen, many of us have had great coaches over the years who we've valued, who we remember, who we recall with fondness, and can point to the impact they had on our lives. But the press is full of stories of not so great coaches who, whether with good intentions or not, have not done the best job of nurturing those kids into young athletes with the right set of values, with an understanding of what leadership is, of what good sportsmanship is, of understanding what it takes not just to be a winner, but to be a competitor.
Correct.
In a way that when the game is over, at age 12, whether you've won or lost, you can say you did your best.
Right. And that's something that, as we were going through our strategic plan, I had the opportunity. We had a coaching clinic at the time where we had Leo Mazzoni come up, and we had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him a little bit. And we did a radio broadcast with him, with Joe Painter, ironically, and we. One of the things he said that sticks in my mind is he said, throughout his, 50 years of professional baseball, he says he, learned an awful lot from about 4 or 5 different coaches. And then he said he had about 60 other people who he learned how not to do things. And, it really kind of clicked that is something, that's very important. I mean, you're teaching these kids something, whether it's right or wrong. And unfortunately, a lot of them can't differentiate it at their age. So, that has been become a big part of our, mission as well, is to educate coaches, get them to understand like I said, it's not all about winning. It's about competing and competing to the best of your ability. So, I'd really appreciate, the way you explained that, and you've been a champion of the organization for a long time here. But you hit the nail on the head when you talked about creating a sports destination, and we have gone to market in a completely different way this past year, attending some trade shows, some coaches clinics outside of our area, and we see that that's paying dividends. We're getting teams, coming from 5, 6, 7 hours away. We just had a team recently contact us from Michigan, wanting to come in, and the first thing they talk about is Charlie Wagner Field and the Fenway Park replica. It's definitely a different way of us doing things. And I guess part of our, why we were kind of hidden below the weeds, so to speak, is we never really thought about a strategic plan. We never really, we just were out there running baseball tournaments and coaching teams and, kind of doing our thing. So, you definitely enlightened us to the importance of having that plan and really to kind of bring awareness. So if you can kind of just talk a little bit about, some of the things we talked about in the strategic plan to kind of get out in the forefront in the community and why that's important, as opposed to, just doing things. You have to let people know what you're doing as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you look at strategic planning, it becomes a little important that you understand the model that our company uses, because you guys fit the model perfectly. And we operate under the premise that all organizations, not just yours, but all organizations do work that you can put into two different buckets. There's what we call routine work and what we call change work. Yep. And routinely, long before I appeared on your doorstep, you ran tournaments. And you didn't need me to show up and say, hey, Dan, why don't you run a couple of tournaments? Right. And routinely, you had a number of ball teams of various ages for young baseball players, and you coached them, and you practiced with them, and you showed up for tournaments, sometimes your own, sometimes somebody else's, and they got a chance to play baseball. They were doing it routinely. Routinely, you worked with their parents and had a dialogue with them, and routinely you raised some money, and routinely you ran concessions out at the fields. I mean, there was a whole bunch of routine work that at the time Berkshire Baseball did, and you did it routinely. You didn't need me to show up and tell you about it. Right. Routine work matters a lot. But good strategic planning isn't about routine work, it's about change work. And you were at an inflection point in your history as an organization. That is, you were at a point where you could, if you chose to, begin to change materially. Right. And you did. You looked at your brand and said, it's vague. Like you, I'm a Red Sox fan. I grew up in Lynn, Massachusetts, and we went to Fenway Park on a regular basis. My dad worked for General Electric, and he would come home and he'd say, let's go to see the Red Sox for dinner tonight. And we would take the T to Kenmore Square, and we would get off and we'd watch the game, and we'd eat bags of peanuts and drink a Coca-Cola and call it a night, and be home in time to watch the replay on WBZ in Boston to see who had won the game. We knew because we were there. And so we were a family that engaged in this as an activity. One of the things that you did is you said, we got to find a way to make sure people don't confuse us with the Red Sox, because we had a beautiful B right on all of our hats that was, it was the Boston B. I love the B. I've got several hats that have the B. I'm a fan of the B. Yep. But the market was confused. Yes. And so we had to do a rebrand, and you did. And the rebrand is evolving. Talk to anybody at, say, Coca-Cola, and they will tell you that rebranding is a millennial activity. A good 1,000 years or so from now, people will get who you are. In addition to that, You realized that you needed to broaden your reach. You needed to have more people in the community engaged in what you were doing. You changed your board. You had a great board of fabulous coaches.
Yep.
And they remained very active on the Berkshire baseball side of your organization. But you didn't have good, broad-based community board leadership. You recruited some solid people to come and serve on the board for you. You did a lot of things necessary to reshape Berkshire Baseball into Big Vision Foundation and Berkshire Baseball. And the end result is you've got a bigger, more impactful organization that is doing bigger and better things within the community and becoming even more of an influence. Millions and millions of dollars come to this community because of the work that Big Vision Foundation does. These are families coming to watch their kids play ball. They stay in our hotels, they eat in our restaurants, they shop in our stores.
Yes, they do.
And in doing so, they leave their money behind. Yep. And if you weren't here doing that, they'd be doing it somewhere else.
Yes, they would be.
Yeah, and our community owes a thank you to you and to Big Vision because people are employed because of the millions of dollars that come in based on the people that arrive here because you bring their teams here to play baseball for a weekend. And I don't think enough people realize that connection, but those that do understand what a great impact you and Big Vision Foundation are having on our community.
Yeah, and it's definitely, like you said, the rebranding is a work in progress. And I mean, you and I have this conversation a lot. I mean, I am not a very patient person, so I expect it to happen like that. But I'll have a phone conversation with you, and you kind of, put me back in line and tell me that it's a process, and we're working through that process. And it's we're, like you said, we're moving forward. We're going in the right direction. And the community is becoming more and more aware of what we do, and that's certainly a good thing. So we're just about out of time here. Any last words you want to say before we wrap up, Al?
Yeah, the most important thing is congratulations to you, to your volunteers who play such an important role in your organization, to your board of directors, to that wonderful staff of people who you have recruited, because you are a classic example of what can be done if one person has a big vision and takes it out to the community at large.
Well, thank you very much for that. And again, thank you for everything you do. You personally have been a mentor for me throughout this process. I've learned a lot, and we're excited to see where this trip's going to take us at this point. So, as always, check us out on the web at bigvisionfoundation.org, and thanks for joining us.
The reason we are gathered here today is there's a special announcement from our friend Dan Klauser, part of Berkshire Baseball, on the next step in creating a megatropolis of sports here in the greater Reading area. It's funny, knowing Dan, don't know where he is or where he went right now, but Dan has a lot of ideas. I don't know how well all of you know Dan, but he's always coming up with great ideas. He's very inspirational and visionary. I listen patiently to what he's thinking and sometimes agree, and sometimes I know when he thinks about it, in a week or two he's going to come back and he's changed his mind. So tonight, when he said he was holding this event, I thought, okay, oh boy, you're going to do this in a few weeks and get it together and make it happen. But I said, well, what are you going to be talking about? And he said, oh, no, you're opening the event. I said, I'm opening the event. What the heck? Why? Because I thought, it sort of stopped me dead in my tracks. He said, well, you got me into this mess. And I looked at him and I said, I did? What do you mean? Well, he is a member of the board of the Greater Reading Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I happen to be the director of the Visitors Bureau. I'm Crystal Seitz. He said, well, I learned from you that tourism and sports are really big here in the area, and the significance it had in economic impact to the greater Reading-Berks County area. So that gave him the impetus and the credence to take Berkshire baseball and crank it up a notch, and that's Dan. He challenged his management to build upon the tournaments that come in, and then That led to the fields that he worked with on behalf of the county. And then he took it even a little bit bigger and better. And I'm not going to tell you what that is because you're going to hear about that tonight. Honestly, I don't know if you realize how lucky we are to have Berkshire Baseball here in Berks County. They bring into our area each year a minimum of $5 million in economic impact. And that's just a minimum. That's from a few years ago when they just started with a few teams, a few tourneys, as they like to say. So when he heard about the size of the impact for the area, he started to build on that and thinking and thinking and thinking. So it became like a snowball rolling down a hill and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm glad that I, for one, gave that snowball a little push. I really didn't have much to do it, but a little inspiration at least. Because what we all need to know that everything that Dan does and his group is for the good of all of us. It's for the good of the community, the people that live in Berks County, and most of all for the youth that we all cherish and want to see grow and prosper here.
So I see it from another side. What I have seen is leadership, passion, integrity, heart, and I have witnessed this every single time he is in my studio. Just recently, I had Dan and his wife in to do some storytelling that you will hear their stories after this event. And I can tell you what an honor it is to sit in front of this group and witness the emotion and the just absolute passion for this community and what they want to do and are doing for the youth in this community. And it is amazing to see. It is humanity on display. And everyone who has been involved, that has come in and told their story, it has been absolutely humbling.
I do want to tell a couple quick stories. One goes back about 6 years. When I became a county commissioner, one of the things I found out about early on was the Berks County Pretrial Services Annual Softball Tournament. And so the first year I played with one of the teams that were there, and in 2009 I put my own team together. We witnessed firsthand the value of the relationship we have today with the County of Berks and Berkshire Baseball. This past year, we were getting ready for the tournament, and it rained almost every day leading right up to that tournament. I know for a fact from previous experience that if the county had still been running that facility, the tournament would have been canceled. Instead, and I'm not sure quite how early, but I understand somewhere between 4:30 a.m. and 5 o'clock, the Berkshire Baseball Group was out there working on the fields, putting the drying agents on the field, and we started about 45 minutes late, and we got the entire tournament in. I was able to point out to members of my team, and all of them have real jobs. We play for fun, and they were amazed at what this organization's been able to do. They also observed in less than a year tremendous improvements to that facility. Now, there are all kinds of catchwords in politics, but I have to recognize my colleague, Commissioner Barnhart, and you're going to hear from him shortly. He played a major role in helping to put this agreement together with our county park system and with Berkshire Baseball. But one of the catchphrases out there today is public-private partnership. And I think often it just kind of rolls off. It's another political plan to trick the taxpayers into paying for something that they shouldn't pay. Well, let me tell you, folks, this is the epitome of what a public-private partnership should be.
A wonderful asset to this community, and it's not just about running baseball tournaments and bringing tourist dollars into the county. That's all great, but I think it's truly what he does for the youth in this community is the real untold story, and the story that needs to be told, that he's building character and the young men and women in this community, and we need more people like Dan Klauser doing that for us.
Long before the Big Vision Foundation, the Big Vision Sports Complex, and a green monster on this beautiful 130-plus acre site, there was a small organization in Berks County called Berkshire Baseball. It's just a bunch of guys wanting to hang out and play some baseball, trying to relive their glory years. As the organization evolved, those young men turned into older men and realized that there were some distinct advantages into giving back. So they started some youth baseball programs, started getting involved in coaching, and before long, the organization had flourished. Right up until 2012, when an opportunity presented itself from the County of Berks to sign a 20-year lease for what was then called the Berks County Youth Recreation Facility. At that time, Berkshire Baseball was now much bigger than just baseball. We now had a 130-plus acre sports facility for baseball, softball, soccer, lacrosse, cross-country running, and many, many more activities. So the rebranding of the Big Vision Foundation began, and in January of 2014, Berkshire Baseball officially became a subsidiary of the Big Vision Foundation. The BIG in Big Vision is actually an acronym for Berkshire, Innovative, and Growth in the Community. Because we as an organization see this facility as a community hub to promote youth sports and leadership. Our mission statement is simple. The mission of the Big Vision Foundation is to develop today's youth into tomorrow's leaders through sports and community service, promote volunteerism and giving back, and drive our local economy. Our vision is that we impact millions of people every year through sports and community service, and we, as a premier sports destination, are a major economic driver in our community. And the best thing to know about us is that by utilizing the three distinct pillars of our organization, we intend to build on the limitless nature of human potential by providing the opportunity to interact using sports, culture, and community service. Our goal is that our programs will unify our community through encouraging positive behavior and reinforcing life and leadership skills. Through our youth programs, we develop individuals who desire to give back to their communities through serving others. Additionally, we strengthen their capacity building and decision-making skills. That is what Big Vision Foundation is all about.